we will open the meeting at 7:02 p.m. So good evening, everyone. Welcome to our Oakland Mills Community Association Board meeting. To get us started, to open the meeting, we need a motion to approve the minutes from our February 9th, 2021 board meeting. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Okay,
Second.
Jenny makes the motion, Bill seconds. Is there any discussion on those minutes?
No, I don't.
All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 0, 0. All right, thank you.
Jonathan, quick correction, isn't it 600?
All right.
7.
7 now, because we have 2 people and lost 1.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
3, 4,
6, 7. Okay,
so
okay.
seven,
okay.
yes.
My fault. That's right. We lose Bob tonight. My fault. We lose Bob tonight.
Yes, Bog is still with us tonight. It's his last night.
Bill, Math 101, let's sit down.
Okay, and our next order of business will be to approve the agenda for tonight's meeting. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, and I see a second from Bill. Is there discussion?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, I have a discussion. So obviously this is Bog's last meeting. He unfortunately he's moving to Oakland Mills adjacent. He'll still be basically in the community, but not under CASS property within Oakland Mills.
Right.
So Bog, I just wanted to make you the offer. Would you like a few minutes on the agenda to say goodbye, or do you want to save that for the bulletin board?
Yeah, I can say goodbye now.
Okay, then why don't we do this? Why don't we immediately, if everyone's okay, amend the agenda so that immediately following resident remarks, we'll give Bog a couple of minutes.
Sure.
Okay,
So moved.
Second.
all right. All in favor of the agenda as amended? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Bog, did you have a hand up?
Yeah.
7. Okay, 7, 0, 0. Yeah, I'm just realizing that you cannot tell who I'm pointing at when I'm doing this, so sorry. It all makes perfect sense to me, but you don't know who I'm pointing to. It's harder with 7 people, especially when you keep moving around on my screen. All right. So we're going to open it up to resident remarks. If you have joined us and you would like to make remarks, you have 3 minutes per resident. And if you just raise your hand, turn on your video and raise your hand, or use the hand raise feature in Zoom, I will call on you in the order that I see you. Anyone for remarks? Okay, I don't see any going once, going twice. All right. Bog, I will turn it over to you for a couple of minutes.
Thank you very much. As they say, if all things good, they come to an end. So my journey with the OMCA is now coming to an end. And I'm very happy that my colleagues on the board, they have been so helpful and kind to me. I have spent 37 years with the US government and US federal bureaucracy, and how grassroots democracy works, I learned over here with your help. And you have played a big role in getting me attuned to the democracy at the grassroots level. I'm not going far away from here. I'm just changing the village. And I will be very close to you, and I will be socially and meeting with you. And we can again have an open house very soon in my new house. And what can I say? I have learned a lot, but I will miss all of you. And just remember me as one of the residents who loved you. And I wanted to give my best to the community. And I do not know to what extent I succeeded, but still the journey was very fruitful and very kind and very normal and very exotic, all at the same time. So I will not be going away very far. And I hope to meet all of you socially whenever you have time and whenever I have time. So goodbye, and we will meet soon.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
It's not goodbye. It's just see you later. And hey, even when you're not an Oakland Mills resident, these are open meetings. You can come hang out with us on
Yeah,
Tuesdays.
sure. I will try my best.
If,
Yes.
if you've got nothing else to do, you can sit and watch us and, say
Yeah.
hello, do some resident remarks. Well,
And-
you're always going to be an honorary resident, so you can do remarks.
Sure. And I will give you a report card. What I found-
Bog,
Yeah.
Jonathan, can I say something?
Yes.
Yeah,
Bog,
sure.
Besides all I just love working with you. But I
Yeah.
just want to let you know that, I don't know if you know this, but CA on occasion annexes property and you're next in line. Okay? Anything to get more lien payers, so you'll be back with us.
Yeah, I'll try my best.
I should tell you I'm kidding, okay?
Bill?
A quick reply to you, Bog. I've enjoyed working with you and we will miss you. I will miss you. And what I'll say stands out most about you to me is your style. In getting things done, their style and then their substance. And what stands out most to me is your style. You are a very gracious, respectful, total gentleman all the time. And that says a lot about you. And then it sets a tone in our meetings for all of us to participate as total gentlemen and total ladies. So thank you so much for your contributions.
And Bill, thank you very much. You have been very kind.
Oh, I can usually count on Bill to talk longer than that. I was looking for something. I had to
Sorry,
rush back.
Jonathan. It happens once a year. This was it.
Would anyone else like to say anything to Bog?
I would just want to thank him for all his involvement and being a part of our board. And as I said to him in an email, he's just a true gentleman, and few and far between these days is what you brought to us in that respect. And so I really admire that and wish you well.
Thank you very much, Sandy. I got more than what I deserve.
No.
So Bog, I stepped away because I was looking for my senator's hat to wear in your honor, but Bill didn't talk long enough. So if I can spot it here during the meeting, I'll grab it and throw it on.
Okay.
But Bog, yeah, I'd like to thank you for all your contributions to the community. And I don't know if everyone here knows this, but Bog was involved with us before he was a member of our board. I first met Bog because he came to a committee meeting, and he was a substantial contributor to our committee. And he worked with me on some education issues, and we actually planned an event that due to some unfortunate circumstances didn't happen. The gentleman who was going to speak at the event unfortunately got sick and passed away, but that's actually when I first met Bog. So I was thrilled to learn that Bog wanted to join the board when there was a seat available for Bog to join. And Bog I was very excited to work with you, and it's always been a pleasure working with you. So, thank you for all you've done for our community. And as we're all saying, even though you're not going to live physically in Oakland Mills, you're still part of Oakland Mills. You're always welcome. And absolutely, I look forward to seeing you socially.
Thank you very much, Jonathan. Now I will start crying.
No.
Yeah. Just to remind everybody who I have worked with, my unfinished task is still unfinished. We wanted to have a climate change essay contest, but because of the pandemic, our plans were just torn apart and we couldn't finish that project. But before I leave, I will send you the links to all the participants in the Oakland Mills High School faculty who were working with me. So please continue and try to make this climate change essay contest a success. I'm sorry I couldn't finish it because of the pandemic.
No, it's completely okay, Bog, and really no apology necessary from you, because I mean, really, realistically, the school itself, Dr. Fink and his team have had to deal with so much that this was not something that would have been fair to, really press them to
Yeah, right.
implement while they were doing everything else. In fact, there are a few other things going on where I'm holding off. The infamous Hill at the Mill. I'm actually holding off on reaching out to the school on that again until after students start returning to the building in March and everyone gets settled in and they get all the kinks worked out, because it's our school administrators and our teachers and our school staff have been asked to do a whole lot over the past year. And it's not over yet for them. So it's completely understandable. All right, thank you. Oh, Lynn?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that one of the things that I really appreciated about Bog goes along with him talking about his climate change essay contest, is that he really brought a large, wide perspective to our discussions, and I really appreciated that.
Thank
So
you
we
very
get
much.
very focused on small issues specific to our immediate village, and it's great to kind of have a wider outlook.
Thank you very much.
Oh, and I have to say, now that Lynn spoke, it reminds me, because she's our architecture chair, Bog, I always described your house to people as one of the tidiest houses in Oakland Mills.
Yes.
Everything always looked perfect on your house. I
Yeah.
love coming up the street and seeing your house because everything was always in its place at your house. So I hope whoever buys that from you maintains that, because it always looked great.
I'll keep a lookout.
Everyone will. We pass it every day.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Because remember what a disaster it was before that.
Right,
Mhm.
it was.
The transformation was amazing. I mean, it just always looked great. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, everyone. We're going to move on to our old business, and our first item of old business for the next 10 minutes or so is the continued discussion of the proposed pool openings. And I'd like to thank Rebecca for taking over the letter writing process, because I had basically exhausted my intellect in the shots I took for the last meeting. And I'm going to share screens. We have a draft letter here, and it looks like a Christmas tree. It's all lit up in different colors with comments and everything. Actually, Rebecca and I try to connect and discuss some of these comments, and our schedules never aligned over the weekend or even yesterday evening. So it's still just loaded up with crossouts and comments and stuff like that, so we can kind of work through them and see where we come out. Basically, the gist of the letter is a message to CA to, look to find a way to, honor the residents' preferences and open all the pools. And I think, the devil is going to be in the detail of the message. And I don't know, with that, Rebecca, do you want to kind of take it over and walk us through it, or we can work through the comments? I don't know how you want to approach it.
I guess, we didn't really hear from anybody else. So maybe just talk about the discussion that you and I were having about whether we offer solutions or not. So does that seem like a good place to start, Jonathan?
It does, because that was my
Yeah.
thinking as I'm reading the whole thing. Can you make it larger, Jonathan? I think
Yeah.
you can.
Yeah,
'Cause
there were
I've got eyes
really
that can't read
there were
it.
really two things that I wasn't sure about, because Rebecca and I were texting back and forth yesterday. One was whether we offer solutions or we just say, hey, the top two priorities are pools and open space. Don't touch those and look at other things. But we can't dig into your budget as well as you can to tell you exactly what those things are. And then the other one was, I thought we were a little bit, you'll see it in my comments. I thought we were a little bit contradictory, because we start off as talking about the pools as, kind of neighborhood amenities where everyone gathers, kind of a very small d democratic thing. And then we make a recommendation about making the pools a lot more expensive. And I wasn't sure whether, the CA board might look at that and go, so which one is it, Oakland Mills? So I thought maybe we could talk through that a little bit too.
Yeah.
Sure.
Jonathan, could I put, Jonathan?
Yes.
Sorry, Rebecca, I just wanted to clarify. They will be, the second Sunday of the month will be free for the pools. Okay, outdoor pools, in case that's not known. Okay, thanks.
But free means they're still gonna have to sign up through the computer system and all that.
If those requirements are the governor and
Yeah,
well, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
If you want safety, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just, just wanted to let that be known. It's still the issue you raised is still an issue though. Okay.
Lynn?
Just going to that first paragraph there, I'm glad that you crossed out that whole part about a network of pools with one pool within each neighborhood, because that really, for people who can walk to a pool, which many can, that's great having it be a neighborhood gathering place, but that's not the case for many people. Probably the majority of people who would really kind of wander up the street to their pools. So I think that's good to take that away. And also I think it's important to recognize that even though the pools are, along with open space, the things that most people say they value most, that the only thing that is truly available to everybody on an ongoing basis is the open space, that the pools, aside from, glad to hear, Ginny, about the second Sunday of every month or every other Sunday, whichever it is. But other than that, it requires pool membership, which although, it's not as expensive as other pool memberships in communities, it still could be a barrier to a lot of people. And so we can't really talk about it in the same way as we talk about open spaces.
Okay, and like I said, these were just my suggestions to what Rebecca composed. So if there's consensus that we should do this, I can do the live edit thing.
Mhm.
I don't know how everyone else is feeling about that. It's what's crossed through here. I'm sort of trying to move my cursor over it.
May I?
Jonathan, I like your edits. That's why I left it as is. I actually
Okay.
I
couldn't
thought they
see
were
the
good.
comments. I only pulled it up on my phone, so I never saw the comments on the side.
Oh, yeah, they were good. I did think that
Mhm.
you were able to edit without taking away the essence of what you want to say.
Okay. On this line here, Rebecca said, hey, can we get this down to one page? So I was just sort of trying to like combine sentences to save space anywhere I could. There's no content change. So if
It
everyone's
might be
with
more
that,
than one page in the end because of the font and the letterhead and stuff, but that's no big deal because we send it electronically to CA anyway.
okay. Same thing here. It was just like stylistic editing to make the words flow. I don't know here. This was just sort of a personal preference thing to me. I'm fine either way. I thought Tailspin makes things sound really, really dire for CA. I just thought Damage is a little softer, so we're not saying to the CA board, man,
You're doomed.
you're flying a plane that's going down.
Yeah, no, that's good.
Yeah, Jonathan, I would also get rid of members will certainly drop their memberships. I think we can't say certainly. We can say are likely to drop
Likely.
their memberships.
Or just maybe just may. Members may drop.
Yeah.
May isn't very strong though.
Yeah,
like-
I'd go with our likely.
Yeah, likely I think is.
Okay.
You need an R there, in there.
Did I-
You got it. No,
Oh,
I'm
there we go.
slow.
Okay. Okay. This one, again, I wanted us to be careful about sending anyone the message that any activity where you gather is perfect, just, for liability, if nothing else. So I figured let's just call it safer, because really nothing is perfect other than living in a bubble right now, I suppose.
Mhm. No, that makes sense. But maybe delete the quotes around safer in the sentence before.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
that sounds kind of strange now.
yeah.
Yeah, good.
Okay. Oh, yeah, I just, on this sentence, I just wasn't sure. It kind of felt like apples to oranges. It might just be that golf is really popular. I don't know. I don't know if comparing golf to gym is really comparing outdoor to indoor, because it's sort of apples to oranges. Like if we had an outdoor gym and it was a lot more popular than an indoor gym, then you could say, yeah, people want to be outdoors more. But I don't know if someone's going to push back on us and say, no, it's just because golf is really popular.
Hmm.
Could we just say something like it's one of the few options for social distancing, because CA residents are more willing to participate in, just get rid of the comparison, just not compare it to other indoor activities, but just say that we're outdoor activities are recommended by the CDC. I mean, it's kind of it doesn't need to be contrasted with indoor activities. I think that
Yeah.
outdoor means they're not indoor.
I guess I was looking at the numbers from CA and the changes in I forget what it was. Admit, I don't know if it was memberships or visits or what, some number on some chart that I saw that showed the golf hasn't really changed too much, but the gyms have.
Okay. I have an idea then. That's
Yeah.
better. So how about this? What if we say as noticeable from the decline in gym memberships versus the steady golf memberships? Because
I don't even remember if it was steady or if it was just better. Maybe Ginny probably knows that off the top of her head.
not to put Ginny on the spot or anything.
No. Oh, but
Ginny,
she's
exactly
muted.
how many
She's
people are
trying.
playing golf right now?
Oh, you're trying,
Ginny,
but
you're-
you're muted.
Ginny's muted.
Get you the exact data on that, because we're talking about the Haven, the Supreme Court, the Athletic Club, the.
Not Haven, the other ones.
So right now, there are people attending all of the different clubs, plus the sports park will be outside. Tennis is indoors and is doing fabulous, as well as really great at the Long Reach facility, as well as you have tennis outdoors and pickleball outdoors and indoors. I could get you the latest data. I thought maybe we had that, had given that on each facility, and then you'd add it up and then you'd figure it out.
Too much.
Yeah, maybe we don't have time for that tonight. If you just want to take that out, then since it's important to get this out tonight.
I think the other thing is you have indoor pools and they're being utilized. You have 5 indoor pools that are being utilized. You've got 2 at the swim center. You've got the 1 in each club. They are being utilized with the restrictions, with all the restrictions. So how many people are actually doing that, but doing it indoors? It's a complicated issue. It's a preference thing, frankly. It's how do you feel? And some people will not feel comfortable for another year. That's the concern with how much money will be available to CA. Or maybe even 2 years, God knows,
I don't think the point of this paragraph changes much by omitting it, because the topic sentence is that pools are a safer activity because they're outdoors during a pandemic. And then obviously that won't change, right? They're still pools, it's still summer. So I think we still get the message across.
Sure.
All right, and then for the rest of it, I mean, I have the overarching comment about, do we really want to get into that? Or do we just say, protect the pools, protect open space? Those are residents' top 2 priorities, and look for somewhere else to make up the $508,000. If we do that, really the rest of my comments are probably moot. If we're going to keep this, then I just had a couple of other arguments or a couple of other comments. One is about what I thought was kind of the contradictory argument as pools as great gathering places, but hey, let's raise the price substantially. And then there was just a little, I don't want to imply to anyone that anything is universally safe during a pandemic. So I just think we need to be careful about how we say those things, because there's still risk to going to a pool. It's just less of a risk than going to an enclosed space.
Jonathan, I don't like the idea of saying, let's keep the pools open and do that by closing other things. I think that everybody has their own preferences, you know, in the community and also on the CA board, the CA staff, you know, everybody has their favorite places to go and the ones that they think aren't really that important. I think that gets too prescriptive. I think that if we want to say that we think it's important to keep the outdoor pools open, I think it's you know, saying, you know, I personally agree. I think they can get rid of the multicultural program. I mean, that's my personal preference, but there are people who think that's just, you know, that's one of the best things they like about Columbia. So I don't think that I don't think it's a winning argument for us to be picking and choosing what should be dropped in order to make the pools be able to stay open. So that's just my opinion.
Yeah, I definitely understand this. I understand that. I was telling Jonathan that you know, I think we've all been on the side of complaining pants people who say they don't like how you're doing things, but don't tell you what to do instead, or don't give you ideas or suggestions how to do it better. So I was trying not to come across like that. Obviously, everybody wants everything open, and, you know, so that's why I was trying to give some suggestions, but I am fine with deleting all this because, like you said, it is much more personal, you know, as to what seems important or what can be cut. And maybe not something that our entire board would, you know, feel good about having one voice for.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's tough because we just don't know. You know, we don't necessarily know what reaction our recommendations might trigger. You know, next thing you know, at our next meeting, we could have, you know, 50 Oakland Mills residents saying, what do you mean close one of the gyms? I use all 3 gyms every week. You know, you didn't ask anyone about this. You just put this out. So that's one of my concerns.
Yeah.
And I'll have more about this in our in my board chair report. But, you know, I attended the meeting about our cash reserves, and this wasn't one of the options suggested by CA, and it might be too late in the game to do this, but, you know, I talked to one of the other board chairs, and one of the things I'm wondering is whether, you know, the villages could potentially offer solutions. You know, for example, if CA is going to follow through and, you know, have us write our checks back to them for anything over our 20%, well, you know, could we come to some arrangement where that money is earmarked to something? You know, we want pools, so here's our excess cash, if we have any, please put this toward pools. I don't know. And it's probably not something that can work into this letter, but I still think there are ways that we could basically state our case that we want to protect pools and open space without telling them what else to cut. And then, you know, depending what they decide, we could follow up with suggestions based on, you know, what we're hearing from CA and what they're considering doing to get to that point, if they even talk about getting to that point.
It looked like Jenny had something about that.
Jenny?
I don't know whether you want me to talk about that now or when I present my report, but I'd like to follow up and not lose that idea, Jonathan.
Let's
of a
do it.
collaboration.
Let's save it for your report, because my report is pretty much going to cover it as well. So it'll basically be a whole block of discussion on the CA and village finances.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Okay.
my point in even just hinting at that now was to say that, you know, this letter doesn't have to be the end of the story. So I'm with Rebecca. I don't like just complaining without offering solutions. I just don't know. I don't know whether we know enough yet to offer a good actionable solution other than protect the 2 things that Columbia residents say are most important to them and look elsewhere for now.
Yeah, and also I don't think that we can speak for the entire Oakland Mills community as to what would be the things that could potentially be cut, whereas we do know that everybody wants to preserve the open space and that the second most wanted thing are the pools. So we know that already. So we can speak with confidence as we're speaking for our entire community that we're not misrepresenting them and speaking mainly for the 7 people on this board.
Are there other thoughts on that? I'm thinking if we do make this change, one addition we'll have to make is we will have to make we will have to make some addition mentioning open space and basically a very similar argument, right? It's one of the top two items of importance to Columbia residents. It's basically a free resource to everyone, you know, paid for by your assessment share. And it's yet another safer place to gather because it's outdoors and it's spread out during a pandemic. So I think we could knock out the open space by just adding a couple of sentences to what we have saying, you know, hey, open space is kind of similar to pools if you think about it, and leave it at that.
But open space is well provided for in the budget now.
Yeah, but it's always a controversy as to how much
Yeah.
maintenance will be done and all of the things coming up that need maintenance. So we don't want to give the impression that the most important thing is the pools and that open space is secondary.
Yeah, my concern is if we don't say something in support of open space, then the solution could be, okay, we'll put the $500,000 into the pools, but we'll take it out of open space. And then we have a whole other issue on our hands. So that's why I'm saying, you know, maybe our letter should say guardrail the two most popular things to Columbia residents and look elsewhere.
Yeah,
Well-
I agree with that.
Yes, real quick, I agree with the point that we need to emphasize open space and pools. That's what the residents want. And I agree with the point of it's important to offer solutions. However, if we begin enunciating them here in writing, we can get ourselves into other issues that we might not want to get into. What we could say potentially is that we're solutions oriented. What we see there may be other possibilities. Instead of cutting the pools basically by a third, you're cutting 8 out of 23, you're cutting out a third of the pools. That's a big cut. Maybe that impact could be spread over several other places in the budget, and it wouldn't have such a big impact on that particular budget item. In other words, you go somewhere else, maybe you cut 5% as opposed to a third, because pools is a pretty big hit. You're cutting out a third. I don't know if other places in the budget are taking that big a hit. I don't know, haven't run the numbers, but that might be something we can emphasize with the pools is it's taking a third. Could we look at other places and that would add up and be a smaller impact on each of the other places? I know I wasn't real clear on that, but those are just ideas. Thanks.
Don't you think CA has already considered that about making cuts to other things? I mean, nothing is getting fully funded that I can see when I look through the budget, but it might be worth saying.
Yeah.
What's
When
that?
I listen to the meetings, it's like the head of sports is there and the CA board is there, and they'll be like, well, if we want to open more pools, where are we going to cut? And then the CA staff and Jenny's there listening says, well, you tell us where you want to cut. Now you tell us where, you know, it's like back and forth, but in all these, you know, weeks of hearings, no one's coming up with any, this is it. I'm sorry, Jenny. It's just what
No, Sandy, thank you. Just quickly on open space, because I agree with what you're saying. You may want to put that in the letter. Just here's one sentence. Proposed funding, for example, for open space maintenance, aquatic weed harvesting, lakefront maintenance, and response time to urgent work orders are consistent with the pre-COVID-19 effort. Mowing in high-use areas and non-urgent work orders are funded at the revised 2021 levels. So there's already a reduction. You're going, you know, I think almost everything was reduced or some things were eliminated. You don't have the money you had in FY19 and, you know.
Could we say something kind of more and you know, more on the order of what you were saying, Bill, that we're looking for solutions and not just complaining about what we don't like about the current budget, and suggesting that there be a more, and I know this is just repeating what's been said before, but a more open discussion with residents, a referendum, something. And I know that there's been town halls and that they've asked for input, but just saying that we're open to other things being cut instead without saying what those other things should be. Or assuming that CA staff, we want to be respectful also of the work that's gone into developing the budget as it is and the proposed budget, that it's not, it wasn't just, oh, we'll solve all of the problems with the budget just by cutting a third of the pools. It's, these have been hard decisions, I'm sure, all down the line, and there's a constituency for each and every one of the things that they're reducing or cutting out completely. They're, each of these things has a, they don't want any cuts to their particular thing that they really like a lot.
Jonathan, may I comment on Lynn's comment real quick? Jonathan, may I comment on Lynn's comment?
Yes.
Yeah, in terms of my recollection of every email I've gotten, or every call I've received, or everyone at Resident Speak Out, I don't recall anyone giving us a suggestion as to where to fund the money, except one guy. And he did it at the Oakland Mills Village Board, and he did it at the CA Board, the chair of the Owen Brown Village Board, who suggested you cut the village board budgets. But other than that, there were no suggestions, and we're getting, I must have received 50 or more long emails about why it would be extremely destructive to someone to have closed the Haven, just to give you an example. So each group, depending on the issue, are saying why their thing is so valuable. You're right, that's exactly what's happening, but nobody's said, except that one guy, nobody said, here's where you can find the money. So you could do a letter that just says open space and the pools are important. You go find it. Then, the danger that is what will, and if the CA board does the same thing, what will the staff come up with that direction? Okay, thank you.
I just have one other comment, which is to inserting the open space language. I think that should be right up front while we're saying keep pools open, keep open space as a priority. So I think it should be right there at the very beginning. In that things, I can see already the change in just this year of what has happened to the open space, the degradation of the open space just in this year, where it hasn't had the degree of careful maintenance that it has had in the past.
As simple as that.
Yep.
Yeah, that looks good.
Oh, what am I doing? Okay,
Oh, wait, not that. Hold on.
Yeah, there's one part
You
that
got
says
too much.
Right. What did I do?
I think you can stop right where you've got the pink right above it. Obviously, CA doesn't want to close several pools. I think you can get rid of the obviously they don't want to. It seems they do want to. So
You're thinking this will not change the summer.
Yeah, we need a better ending now, but
yeah.
Let me, okay, so I should grab all the, okay, that's already cut from before. Oh, okay, we still have some closing language here.
I think your closing is that you're saying this with the understanding about the current budget issues, but that you would look for the board and the CA board and staff, I guess, to come up with solutions to absorb the additional cost to open, the pools, which right now is closing a third of that valued amenity or something.
something like that.
Good. Excellent.
Yeah, well said.
So
Okay,
Jonathan, when you're done, send it to me.
are we, again, this isn't like a, you know, something that binds our board to anything, so I don't know that we necessarily need a vote, but do we have consensus that this is the message we want to go forward with? There might still need to be a little bit of cleaning up, because after Rebecca and I accept all the changes and stuff, we might find that we've accidentally inserted a dirty word or something after all this editing, but I think the message is there now.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
so.
it needs a little fine tuning because you have to incorporate all of the edits and make sure it flows okay.
Yeah.
But I think we got what we want to say.
Okay, and look at this. I mean, it looks like even with letterhead, it might be a page long.
Yeah.
Perfect.
All right. I'm gonna move on.
We need to get it there by late tomorrow because their meeting's Thursday night.
Yeah, I'll try to take a look at it since I have the copy now on my hard drive here. I'll try to look at it for flow after our meeting tonight, and then Sandy and Rebecca, I'll send it to both of you for another set of eyes. And if you don't think that I did anything totally insane as I was trying to edit on the fly, we'll put it on letterhead and send it out.
Mhm.
Okay.
All right, thanks
Johnson-
very much.
Johnson,
Yes, Bill.
one quick comment. I want to thank you and Rebecca for the countless hours you've put into this. It's a lot of hard work. Thank you.
Thanks, Bill. And thank you, Rebecca.
Yeah, I have one observation. I have read the pool letter very minutely and very closely, and I must compliment Rebecca and Jonathan for such a brilliant piece of advice and a project. And I didn't get enough time to spend time with on the project, but this is a brilliant project, and I think CA board should be very happy with this. Thank you so much, Rebecca and Jonathan and Sandy.
I didn't do anything.
Thanks, Doug.
Thanks, Bob. Okay, well, now for our old business, we have to discuss our upcoming vacant board seat, which is unfortunately being vacated by Bog. So effective February 28th, Bog is leaving our board, which means that we will be back down to a 6 voting member board, plus Ginny is our ex officio member for our meetings beginning in March. As I said at the last meeting, all our bylaws have to say on the matter is when there's a vacancy, the board can fill that vacancy. It's up to us if we fill the vacancy, how we fill the vacancy. So I'm going to open with the same thing I opened with when we had our last vacancy. I'm going to pose, one question, and then depending on the answer to that question, I'll pose the next question. So the first question is, do we want to try to fill this vacancy for the remainder of the term? And the second question is, if so, how? So I'll open it up for discussion on the first question, and then we'll see if we even need to talk about the second question. Lynn?
I think that we should not try to fill the vacancy. I think it's too short a time period, and that anybody who's going to go through the effort to the letter of interest, and then we interview and all of that, they might as well just hold off and make a bid to run for the election to campaign. And alternatively, if we were just to out of hand appoint someone without going through that process, I think that's unfair to our two brand new members who did go through that whole process. So that's my opinion.
Thanks, Lynn. Rebecca?
I will say I work with Warren on the public space committee, and he is interested. He's already actually filled out his online whatever to run, which I didn't even realize it was out. So I was like, oh, okay, I'll sign yours, and now I need to look into it. But Warren is interested, so he's running obviously, but he would be interested in filling the position now. So I know we just asked, and so it's unlikely that we would get more people interested right now, but just if we do decide to fill it, there is somebody interested that we know and has been, on the committee for a long time. So That's all I have to say.
Okay. Bill?
Yes, I'd be for not filling it and just letting the election process handle things, because we do have the election packet online, so that we're that close. And if we did go through the same process that we did for Rena and Rashida, it'd be, I think, advertising it for almost a couple weeks, getting replies, then setting up for interview with the board, go through that by the time all that gets done and then we appoint someone, we're close to the end of March and you only have one more month in the board year, and then you're into new board year. So since we're so close and since we already have the election packet out there, my thought is just let the election process take care of filling the 7th seat.
Are there other thoughts? Ginny?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. The other side of the coin would be if you get somebody, if you shorten the time frame for them to apply, since we've advertised before and we got 2 people know about, they had a chance. It might be a shorter time frame this time. It's got the potential to actually get somebody that's really interested in serving the village and serving the residents to start right away and not kind of maybe lose that person. Or so there's kind of, you can see both sides of this, an advantage and experience for that person so that they sort of hit the ground running if they get elected then starting May 1st.
We didn't advertise the vacancy, the past 2 vacancies, Rena and Rashida's. We didn't advertise that very long, right?
2 weeks.
2 weeks?
Yep.
Mhm.
Oh.
We sent it out
It was-
as emails and in the email news and Facebook.
I'm
Like,
saying you
for
could do
about
2 weeks. You could do
weeks.
a lot less. Yeah.
It was, yeah, I mean, if you consider the whole process, it was about
A
at
month.
least a month from the time we decided to do it to the time that Rena and Rashida sat for their first meeting with us, which is tonight. But we could, we could shorten the process. I mean, I do, a couple of people asked me, knowing that Bog's vacancy was coming, what I thought about filling it. And my honest answer, believe it or not, there are times where I don't have opinion, was I don't really have an opinion because I can see arguments on either side. My only thought on it is if we do decide to fill it, I do think that we should follow, maybe we can shorten our process, but I do think we should follow our process to solicit interest. I mean, I think that's the fair thing to do for our community. As much as I like Warren and would be honored to serve with him on the board, we don't know who else might be interested this time who didn't put in for it the last time.
Yeah, I think we should try to fill it with a shortened time frame.
I'm in agreement. I think so too. Mhm.
We take a vote, Jonathan?
Well, first I want to discuss, just in case we get a lot of people interested this time, whether we have enough people on our board committed to making that short time frame. Because remember, if we get more than a couple of applicants, we normally do that subcommittee and they basically pre-interview and bring their 2 recommended candidates to the board so that the whole board doesn't have to convene and basically interview many people and then have a whole series of votes until we get to a majority for one person. We try to bring it down to the 2 people so that we can just have a single vote after the board meets those 2 people and get someone in the seat quickly. So the first thing I would ask before we even come up with what we're doing is, do we have 3 people on the current board who have the time and interest to potentially meet with 3 or more candidates very quickly and decide which 2 to bring to the board? Because that's a step we have to consider in case we get interest from more than just Warren and maybe one other person. And and that is a little bit of a commitment, right? Because we have 2 weeks between this meeting and the next meeting, so things would have to happen quickly. or we are in that situation that Bill and Lynn talked about, where by the time they're seated, they have like one meeting left and then the board year ends.
Can I just insert something before we go with that? I think too that another concern of mine that is similar to yours, Jenny, but it's the other side of the coin of that is that if we put something out right before, so simultaneously with putting out the candidate package where we're asking people, do you want to run for being on the board? And at the same time, we're saying, oh, here's another route. You can just tell us that you want to be on the board and we'll appoint somebody. And I think that that would be discouraging to people who might otherwise, you know, why am I going to go through the thing of going and getting 12 signatures and
They'll still
you know,
have to do that though.
Yeah, their term still expires at the same time everyone else's does. So,
right, but if they got on the board, but I mean, I think the people who otherwise might, I don't know, it just seems to me like it's putting too many things out there that we're offering to people of ways to get on the board all at the same time.
right, so we've heard from Bill, we've heard from Lynn, we've heard from Ginny, Rebecca, Rashida, Bog, Arena, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, it's a difficult choice.
Yeah.
Argument on both sides.
Mhm.
Like it's like Hamlet's dilemma, to be or not to be. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I
So-
feel, yeah, that's how I feel. Mhm. But I'm ready to vote though, but I, because so I'm a little over the fence now on one way. Yeah. Mhm.
I'd need some sort of strong argument as to why it's really a real advantage to have somebody be at 2 meetings to go through this. And possibly disappoint people who might want to fill the position and wouldn't be selected.
Well,
Well,
it's more than 2 meetings, right? We don't actually start the next thing, the next terms until June, right?
No, May 1st.
Yeah.
Hmm.
We have, this board has 4 meetings left after tonight. So if we followed the normal process with the normal timeline, it would be 2 meetings. If we expedited it, maybe they'd get in for 3. But that's why I'm saying, do we even have, 3 people on our board committed to working the expedited process to ensure that we can get candidates in front of us by the next meeting? Because we're
Can I say something too?
basically, unless we cut this whole thing down to 2 weeks, then yeah, they're only going to be here for 2 meetings.
I have another thought, just because of the business end of me. In the next few meetings, we're doing financial things, we're doing budgets, we're doing 3rd quarter, we're doing budget for next year. We already have 2 new members, so I really have to get up to speed on that. To bring in 3, you'd have a lot of new members voting on kind of
Yeah, it's
important
like half
financial
the
stuff.
board. It's almost half the board.
Yeah, that's my business end thought of it.
I mean, you're already going to be explaining, more. I haven't done budget that much, so you're going to have to explain it to me anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just throwing it in there. as
Yeah.
a comment.
Well, timing wise, if we advertised it tomorrow, gave people a week, then we could try to, whoever wanted to review, if we have a bunch of applicants before even the next meeting.
Well, how
Is
is
that
it fair?
ridiculous?
How is it fair to cut it to a week when we've done it always 2 weeks before? I just, I don't see the urgency myself.
I'm only introducing the urgency because if we do the normal process, it really doesn't make a lot of sense to me. So to me, it's a decision of do it with urgency or don't do it. And that's where I said I'm really ambivalent.
Yeah, if there were a question that we wouldn't have a quorum going forward if we didn't fill that position, then I think there would be a reason to really fast track it. But as it is, we will at our next meeting have 6 members. So, which is more than we had, more than we've had in the past frequently.
Yeah, I'm fine either way.
And by the way, in case anyone's wondering, and look, we've run with 6 members before, but it hasn't been an issue. I have looked into Robert's rules about what happens if you have an even number and you know, you have, you know, tie votes or something like that. And
The
basically,
motion fails.
well, no,
fails if
actually,
tied.
another thing we can do is the board chair can basically refrain from voting on certain matters. I looked into Robert's rules, and I'd have to look into the specifics of what happens there, but I wouldn't get overly concerned about having an even number for a short period of time. Amy, you're right. If everyone votes and it's tied, the motion fails. But if we want to avoid tie votes, then there's also an option where the board chair basically doesn't vote except on certain issues.
Yeah, this might be a good solution.
All right, well, if we're going to do something, we need a motion. If we're not going to do something, then the time can expire and we've basically decided not to do anything on the issue. So does anyone want to make a motion to do something with the vacancy?
I make a motion to fill the vacancy with a shortened time frame of 10 days for applying and trying to get somebody reinstated by the middle of March. Or do you need me to say that differently?
Middle
Or
of March
have
would be the end of
candidates-
March. Well,
Have candidates presented at the March 9th meeting.
I don't think we can do that in 10 days.
That gives us, that's 2 weeks. So 10 days will be advertised at tomorrow. They turn in by that Friday, and the election subcommittee or whatever meets with the candidates Monday before the meeting.
That's
that
really
make sense?
tight, but
If the candidates can meet, it's going to depend on what the candidate's schedule is as well.
Excuse me, other than the one person that shows some interest, has there been a lot of interest for the position?
we don't know.
So you don't
No,
know, but I didn't know like after, but we all kind of found out everything that one night. So I guess, okay, all right, I understand.
Yeah, nobody knew that would be a vacancy.
Oh,
Okay.
And only you two applied for the last one. So it's not like we had a bunch of other people that wanted to.
Okay. Okay.
so given the motion, well, first of all, we would need a second. So is there a second? Second going once. Second going twice. Okay, there is no second on the motion. I think that kind of reflects the ambivalence toward whether this is the right thing to do. So therefore there isn't a motion to vote. So it sounds like we are likely to carry the vacancy. Obviously, this can be reintroduced at future meetings, but we're rapidly approaching the end of the term. I see Warren's out there, and to Warren, I would say, please, don't consider this, the board not wanting you to join the board. This is more about the board figuring out whether we can, fit a process in adequate time to seat a member and really have them up to speed to make our financial and other decisions before the whole term expires and we're all running again anyway.
I don't think we have to worry about him disappearing.
No, I don't think Warren's disappearing. I just don't want him to think we want him to disappear.
Right.
All right, I'm going to move on to the board chair report. So my big report out is on the working meeting last week with CA. And I know Rebecca and I texted a bit and she had a chance to watch the meeting. I don't know how many of you watched it.
I did.
I want to start on the positive, but then I have some concerns. So on the positive, I first want to thank Ginny because as this discussion was unfolding, several of the village managers, several of the board chairs were there. And, among the board chairs, we were unsure about whether we were just there to listen or could talk. And I even put that question into the chat and Andy answered. And, what Andy said was, well, let's let all the CA board members go and then we'll hear from the chairs or the village managers. And I just want to say a public thank you to Ginny because, you know, several of the CA board members went and they said their piece, and then Ginny's turn came and she said, I want to hear from the villages. And that was it. And I appreciate that because I didn't know if we were going to get heard from. You know, we got the invitation to this meeting on very short notice. Not everyone could make it. So I appreciate you acknowledging we were there and saying that you would like to hear from us. In terms of what happened, CA staff brought a set of recommendations to the board, and hopefully you've all seen those. They were in some of the information I shared when I told all of you I would be attending that meeting. And they laid out several options. One is, with our cash reserves, apply the 20% cap, which is what the management contract says. One is waive it this year, and we keep whatever excess cash we have, which is actually what we asked of CA in a letter that we sent a couple of months ago before these options were laid out. So officially, that's Oakland Mills, the position of the Oakland Mills Community Association, even though we didn't know that these options were going to be there. Another option was to keep the cap but raise it so we could keep more of our cash, but not all of it. And then another option was basically to reinstate the old contingency fund. And for those who don't know, what used to happen was the villages would take some of the excess cash and they would put it into this pool of money that CA held. And it was there kind of for emergency use. So if a village encountered a severe financial situation, they could draw upon the contingency fund. Or if there were some issue that were village-wide, and I think a majority of the villages voted to draw money from the contingency fund to address that across Columbia, it could be used. CA disbanded that contingency fund a couple of years ago, and basically they gave half back to the villages to be paid in 3 installments, and they kept half for themselves. And one of those installments got deferred because of COVID, so we haven't even gotten all of our the half of our contingency fund money that we were supposed to get back yet. So those were the options laid out. I did speak and I did state for the record that Oakland Mills had already submitted a letter that would basically support option B, which is let us keep our cash. But I also did say, hey, you know, this is the first time we're seeing this. Our board hasn't discussed these options. So I'm talking to what was. Now let me state some of my concerns and some of the thoughts I have. I heard something from the CA president that I found very disturbing and quite frankly, a little offensive, given that all the village managers and board chairs were invited to this meeting. And I thought about it. I talked to another chair to see if that chair felt the same way, heard the same thing, and then I slept on it, and then I was still concerned. Basically, as the staff were presenting to the board the funds that CA transfers to the villages. First of all, I don't like when they refer to it as CA giving the villages money, because we're supposed to be a partnership, so we're not asking CA for handouts. We play a role in this financial relationship. So I think that gets us started off on the wrong foot. But then the CA president was looking at some of this money, and he said, well, I want to know what value we're getting from the villages. I mean, someone needs to show me what value we're getting from giving them this money. And that concerns me. And you know, several members of the CA board did speak to the value of the villages. No one really called him out on that question, but several members of the CA board spoke to the value of the villages.
Actually,
But
I didn't hear him say it. I mean, I believe you. He said it. I totally missed that.
Yeah,
45:30 into the meeting. I heard it a few times.
Yeah, he said it, and I was texting with another chair going, did he say that?
Yeah, I
hear that
listened to
right?
the whole meeting again, yeah.
So one thing I decided to do after sleeping on it is I decided, you know what, I'm just going to, off the top of my head, put a list together of what value I think OMCA provides to Oakland Mills and also to broader Columbia. And I'm actually thinking of, basically, putting this out there on social media as my opinion, that the rest of the board can agree with me and join with me or not, or we can decide what we want to do with it. But if the value of the villages is being questioned in these financial transactions, I think maybe it's time we start demonstrating that value instead of assuming everyone knows. So here's the list I came up with, and it's broken out into categories and subcategories. So number one was advocacy on behalf of Oakland Mills with CA, county, and state officials. You know, for example, we have a housing committee, we have an education committee, we have an open space committee, we have a public space committee. Tangible outcomes of those efforts, we have traffic improvements throughout OM. So, you know, we have speed control, we have streetscape, we have the roundabout, even though I know the roundabout isn't the most popular with everyone, but at the time, everyone wanted the roundabout. We successfully advocated for the rehabilitation of the pedestrian bridge, which is now known as Bridge Columbia. We successfully got behind and got the tear down and rebuild of Talbot Springs Elementary School. Of course, in the housing arena, you know, we're going to be involved in whatever the redevelopment of the Rona looks like. We have, you know, Bill, who's now basically known as a housing expert throughout the county and is serving on a task force as a result. I'm serving on a housing task force. So it's basically through OMCA that our names are getting out there and we're getting pulled into these things. The next thing I came up with was direct financial support to nonprofit organizations serving the Oakland Mills or Columbia communities. So year after year, we've given financial donations to the local PTAs at all 5 of our schools. We've given donations, sometimes substantial donations, to the sports and fine arts boosters at Oakland Mills High School. We've given donations to Sleep in Heavenly Peace. We've given donations to the Village in Howard. I know there are others, but those are the ones I can remember off the top of my head as I was just typing this out. In-kind support to nonprofit organizations serving the Oakland Mills community and Columbia. We're giving free use of Stevens Forest Neighborhood Center to Columbia Community Care, which started during the pandemic, and they have long lines there every Wednesday and Saturday. We give free use of the other barn to Oakland Mills High School for AP testing every year when it's not COVID. We give free use of the other barn for other school and PTA events. We give reduced rent at the Stevens Forest Neighborhood Center for the Village in Howard. Again, that's probably not exhaustive, but it's the things I was immediately thinking of when I'm thinking, okay, what value do we add? How do we, you know, why is OMCA in business and why do we need finances? Next category I had were events for Oakland Mills and Columbia. We have our annual fall festival. We have our annual plant sale. We have our home renovation and rehabilitation workshops. We have our lively arts for little ones. We have our jazz in the mills. We have our Columbia Cleans, among other things. And some of those things have continued while we can't gather. Some of those things have been moved to virtual events. And our staff still needs to run those. We still need to pay our staff to put those things together and run them. And then finally, you know, what is our basically, you know, what is our core mission as an HOA? It's covenants. So, you know, for covenants, one thing I think we need to make clear to everyone, because I know this is confusing even to Oakland Mills residents in the know, covenants on Oakland Mills properties are specific to Oakland Mills Village and they're our responsibility, not CA's. We provide all the advice to residents and businesses considering exterior alterations to ensure their covenant compliance. So that's why we pay our covenant advisors in addition to having a volunteer RAC and non-RAC. We deal with all covenant complaint resolution up to the point where it becomes a legal case and then it moves on to CA. So again, that's our staff and our finances dealing with all of our covenant issues. And then of course, another important thing we do is, you know, we are responsible for all the letters of compliance to protect new buyers. And, you know, throughout Columbia, we've really been stressing that and, you know, what used to be a difficult thing is now becoming more common. We get a lot of demand for those things. So that was just a list of things I came up with. You know, when I heard the CA president say, well, what value are we getting from these villages when we send them this money? And again, I think of this money as not CA sending us money. I think of this money as, you know, some of our money. If we were a normal HOA, we would have everyone sending us dues. We have CA collecting in part on our behalf, and some of that money is money that should be coming to us anyway. Now, as for my thoughts on what was discussed in those options, look, I'd like to keep all of our cash. I think we're going to have to spend money to make money going into next year. I think thanks to Sandy's budgeting, we're doing better than maybe we thought we would, because we have a very, 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 very conservative budget. We're running with an absolute skeleton staff. Sandy is serving as our village manager, our treasurer, and our covenant advisor right now, or one of our covenant advisors. We have Amy, at reduced time. We have Brigida at reduced time, and we have a little bit of Karina, and that is it. We have cut to bare bones. So, we shouldn't be punished or questioned for doing better than we thought, because we were being really conservative in case we could be facing like going out of business at the end of the year with all the unknown. With that said, we did sign a management contract, and the management contract says 20%. So this is my personal thought. If the CA board decides to do nothing and enforce the management contract, I could live with that because we signed it. We didn't know this was coming when we signed it. CA didn't know it was coming when we signed it. So both parties are, parties to the contract. Okay, fine. If CA wants to let us keep our cash, hey, good for us. I'm happy with that as well. I am really not interested in discussing another contingency fund or other options right now during all this uncertainty, because I think that is just, reaction to what right now still looks like a shorter term issue. And I think that's a longer term conversation that CA and the villages need to have. And one of the things I said when I was speaking during that meeting was, it's great that you invited us here to discuss these options, but your staff is developing these options based on spreadsheets they're getting from our village managers and based on what they're interpreting from these spreadsheets. Why not have the staff come and spend a half hour with each village at a board meeting and let us explain the rationale behind the budgets we developed and why we are where we are right now in our budget? Because, we weren't budgeting to have a surplus. We were budgeting to stay alive. And anything better we did than that was going to be basically bonus. We had that conversation at the beginning of the year, to the point that we cut all but a couple of $1,000s from donations, and we didn't accept any donation request early on, with the thought that maybe we'll be able to give something to the schools to help them get open back up. And we cut from a lot of other areas. We could have passed a budget that committed us to a lot of spending so that at the end of the year, it didn't look like we had very much overage, if at all. But we wanted to be responsible with basically our residents' money, because this is coming from them. And I think that's an important part of the conversation. And I think that's a conversation that each village really needs to have with CA, the CA board, the CA staff, before they just look at spreadsheets and look at aggregate numbers and come up with these, potential alterations to the management contract. So again, if they just want to say the management contract is what it is, 20%, sorry villages, we're not honoring what you're asking for, I'm actually more okay with that than pursuing any of these other options right now. So that's my reaction to the whole thing, and that's my report out from my perspective of how the whole thing worked. As for looking to the future, one thought I had, and I'm just putting this out there, we don't need to discuss this tonight. I think it's something to think about for the next management contract. I'm fundamentally opposed to this cap because I don't believe it rewards good financial behavior, by the villages, right? If you don't mind, if you don't manage your finances well, you don't turn anything back over to CA at the end. If you do a nice job managing your finances as Oakland Mills often does, you're cutting a check at the end of the year. A nonprofit cannot just hoard money. And actually, one of my fellow board chairs basically implied that the villages with these surpluses are going to do just that. And I and another village chair said, absolutely not. We would be reinvesting this money to get open back up. You need to spend money to make money. But with that said, obviously we can't just bank money indefinitely. I can see where CA and the villages are in this financial partnership. So one thought I've had, and maybe this is for a future management contract, is maybe there's still a cap, but maybe it's a softer cap. And by softer cap, what I mean is CA and the villages not only have a financial, we have this financial relationship, but we also have this relationship in managing facilities and being stewards of basically, what belongs to CA within the villages. So maybe something like that 20% cap stays, but instead of all the overage just going back to a check to CA for the CA board to do what it wants, maybe there could be some commitment where the villages take that overage and they invest that directly back into CA property, which offsets costs for CA, but still keeps that money in the village. Again, this is not an immediate thing. I think this is a discussion for a future contract, because it does seem to me that among several of the village chairs, as well as among several of the CA board members who spoke that night, a lot of people are looking at this cap going, does this make any sense? Does this even give the villages any incentive to be good financial stewards if their reward is cutting a check back to CA? I would rather cut a check to do something nice to one of our neighborhood centers, or do something nice for the other barn, or maybe even do something nice for the ice rink or the teen center, and you know, save CA that cost, but keep the money in Oakland Mills, than just write a check back to a general fund. So that's, I think I went on a bit long. Usually I give time back on my board chair remarks. I think I probably went over, but I had a lot of thoughts after sitting through that meeting, you know, hearing what was said, hearing from CA board members, many of whom spoke very positively of the villages and were very supportive. Again, I thank Ginny for starting by simply saying, I'd like to hear from the villages. I'd like to hear what they had to say, because I appreciate having, you know, having someone invite us, not just to the meeting, but invite us to speak at the meeting, because it was really unclear as I went into that meeting, whether we were there just to listen quietly or whether we were there to speak. So those are my thoughts. Any questions? Bill?
Just 2 comments, Jonathan. Thanks for the detailed explanation of the value that Oakland Mills provides to CA, Columbia, Howard County. Excellent. And the very first thing I think that Oakland Mills provides in terms of value is the lien fee to CA. All the villages send the lien fee to CA first. Okay, that's reality. Then it circulates to CA, and then it gets into the management contract between CA and the village. My opinion is that too often CA feels it's their money to dole out to the villages, when the first step is the lien payers in the village send the money to CA. And I think that's often lost and forgotten. So I like the idea for future discussions of the soft cap, that we're good financial managers. We come in over the 20% cap, that we reinvested in CA facilities in the villages to incent us to continue to be good financial managers. Thanks.
Well, other questions or comments, Lynn?
Is there any action for us to take at this point, or was this just you reacting, not just you reacting to what you heard, but is there something we can do at this point, or are you advising us to wait until the next management contract comes up?
This is my reaction in the short term. My recommendation to the board after hearing that meeting is we just stand by what we already sent. I don't believe any of the new options are any better than just keeping the 20% cap or keeping all the cash. Like I said, I think now is not the time to start talking about another contingency fund or making adjustments to the cap. I think that's discussion for the next management contract after we're past this, and both CA and the villages have a stronger feel for what their financial future looks like. I think any other decisions are kind of rash right now, because we're still a bit in crisis mode. So yeah, my advice would be to stand by what we do. And maybe Ginny can talk more to this, but my understanding is if the CA board decides to do nothing with these options, then by default, it's the 20% cap, because that's the contract we all signed.
Good. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, before I hand it to Ginny, just one other thing, because I talked about this at education. I thought it might be interesting. I got the statistics for the proportion of families who have opted to send their students back to school versus stay virtual. It's very interesting because it's kind of correlated with demographics, geography, et cetera. So the school with the highest proportion of kids staying virtual in the whole county is Oakland Mills High School. 68% of Oakland Mills students are not going back to that building in March. Oakland Mills High is also above average. Stevens Forest Elementary is also above average. And then Talbot Springs Elementary and Thunderhill are a little bit below the average. They're at 48% staying virtual. The countywide average is 52% staying virtual. At the bottom of the school staying virtual it's primarily the schools out west. Like I think Glen Elk High School is in the 30s, River Hill is in the mid 40s. So it's very interesting to look at that. And I think it's also very, very telling, because if you look at national polls and even ask people locally, I think people's concern about COVID and the impact it's had on them is definitely different by things like race, ethnicity, and even socioeconomic status. It's a much larger. While one may think that people working service jobs are the very people who want their kids back in the building because they can't be home to watch them and everything like that. No, these are the folks that are most concerned. These are the folks that are most actually protective of their income and don't want any exposure beyond the exposure they need to have to be at work. So they're keeping their children at home, and it plays out in a lot of our numbers. 68% of Oakland Mills kids won't be going back, and it's almost the inverse of that at a school like Glen Elk out there in the country.
So Jonathan, is that Oakland Mills High School or
60
Oakland Schools in
Oakland Mills,
aggregate?
Oakland Mills High School. Oakland Mills High School has the largest proportion of kids not returning to the building at 68%.
Wow.
Oakland Mills Middle and Stevens Forest Elementary are also above average, and then Talbot Springs and Thunderhill are a little bit below the average, which kind of tracks if you consider, the populations of those schools. Overall, I think a lower proportion of high school age kids are going back to buildings than elementary, which makes some sense, right? High school kids can kind of handle being at home and getting on the computer and learning even if no one's there. But even controlling for high school level, middle school level, elementary school level, Oakland Mills High is way above every average. Oakland Mills Middle is above average. Stevens Forest Elementary is above average. And then Talbot Springs and Thunderhill fall slightly below the average.
Wow. That's very revealing.
Yeah. It's easy to look at the high school since there are only 12 of them, but you can almost follow the geography, as you move east to west. So right up there with Oakland Mills is Long Reach and Wild Lake. And then, down toward the bottom is Glen Elk and River Hill in terms of kids staying virtual. So it's very interesting to look at those numbers. I can send the spreadsheet around after the meeting, but we talked about it at the education meeting, and I thought it might be interesting, to our board and to our community to know what kind of choices our residents are making when it comes to returning their children to the school buildings this year.
I think aside from demographics, which are major, it also reflects on people's confidence that the protective measures have been put in place in Oakland Mills High School. I would guess.
Yeah, it could reflect that. It's unclear to me because, in 2012, Stevens Forest was basically gutted and rebuilt, yet that's high. And Talbot Springs is literally falling down around them, and they're below average when it comes to sending, to keep it staying virtual. So it's really hard to tell.
Wow.
All right, I've taken up enough time. Ginny, I'm going to toss it over to you.
Sorry. Okay, I'll catch it, Jonathan. Thanks. Jonathan, I wanted to thank you and the chairs that did attend. I think there were only 3 of the village boards that attended the meeting, but 2, I really was concerned that it was not clear at all what the process was and what to expect. That's why I said what I did when it was, my turn to speak. I think there may have been an understanding, my guess is on the part of the village, that we were going to be voting on this. What you had to say was, important, and that we were going to have to vote on this like as part of the budget on February 25th. I was beginning to get that sense. And that wasn't the case at all. This is the beginning of a process. So that's why I wanted to hear more from you guys. And I also said to Andy, we've got to make this, offline after, we've got to make this a lot clearer what the process is. So there was some discussion of that finally, but I apologize that it was so late in that, in the meeting, unfortunately. And just for the rest of the board's benefit, basically what the process is, this was a beginning step where the auditor looked at the budgets, gave her opinion of these options, A, B, C, and D. Then the village boards had a chance to react to it, but it's just the first step. After that, there'll be lots of meetings with the appropriate, like the village managers, anybody else from the board's point of view, from staff, there'll be other people. And there are now some CA reps that want to be involved, if possible, in those meetings, so that we're hearing it directly as to what people are saying, not secondhand. And then eventually, after months, there'll be public hearings and a decision, okay? Or no decision, as you say. I think, so that's about it, and I owe you an apology. I did miss the statement that you and Sandy, Sandy heard by listening to the tape, and you heard. I'm sorry, I missed that completely. So.
Oh, no, oh, Ginny, you don't know. You don't owe me or us an apology. It wasn't your statement.
No, I know, but it was, well, anyway. I don't think there's anything else on that. To get to, just for the new people on the board, I just want to be brief, but I'd be happy to sit down with you and go over the CA budget and how it's broken up and stuff like that if you want. But just, you keep hearing these words, annual charge, lien. That's a major portion of our budget, and it's based on what the assessment is for somebody's property. For example, this year, we're hoping, CA's projections, and hoping to get 28 million from residential properties and 14.4 million from the business community. So they get it from two sources. And the fear is a lot of people have been unemployed, or they're in financial problems for other reasons. What will they be able to pay their assessment to CA? Or will we have, and every year we get people that say, I can't afford to pay, and you've got to go figure out what to do, what to work out with them, et cetera. That's been going on forever. But we're worried that it'll get worse. So the projections may be off. I hope not, but they may be. And the same with the business community. You know how many businesses, unfortunately, have closed. They're not going to pay an assessment. And there are other businesses that were closed because of what the governor or Calvin Ball said they had to be, and they're complaining that they don't think they should be getting X assessment, and they're appealing it. So those are some of the issues. Sports and fitness is projected to bring in $18 million, but you don't bring in, from all those clubs and everything, 18 million unless you spend money to earn money. And spending money, of course, one of the positive things is you're employing some people in the community that were in the past were fired, laid off, et cetera. But you've got to be able to spend a certain amount of money to earn that money. If we close facilities, you're not going to, as been suggested, close gyms, close whatever. That's going to perhaps have an impact on decreasing that 18 million. So that's just some of the money. And open space is going to cost at least 16 million. God knows if there's some climate issues where bridges get blown out again and other things. And most of the budget, which is capital budget, I think it's about 8 million, is big reduction from what it was in the past. And it is only going for safety, health hazards, whatever, that absolutely essentially has to be done. And a lot of that, will be our neighborhood centers, our community centers, et cetera. Just to give you kind of an overview, but with the two new guys, if you would like to sit down and talk about this more, I'd be happy to do that.
Thank you, Jenny.
Okay. Now, in terms of two remaining issues, because I know it's late. One is the CA search, and I sent out an email. I hope you all got a chance to read it, but we're down to 5 candidates. 82 applied, and we got to 15, and now we're down to 5. The board members reviewed each of the 15, and we had a meeting where we wound up, we did actually a Survey Monkey to vote, and then we got together and talked about and came down with 5. It is a very diverse group. And now we'll be starting a process which the deadlines have, the dates have changed. Instead of March 15th, we are moving that up and trying to interview the 5 candidates together. Some of us will be willing to go into headquarters and see if we can, if they're willing to come to the interview, the candidates, interview them personally. Others don't want to do that, and it'll be virtual. So it'll be the same as the school system, and we'll see what the percentage is in terms of the CA board members. So that will take place March 8th, 9th, and 10th. And then we will, make a decision as to top 1 or 2 candidates, and then narrow that down. Okay, and then a contract will be offered, and the idea is to have somebody on board May 1st. One of the things, though, that I'm insisting upon, and some other CA board members, is we have asked communications, and we actually finally, for the first time, I think, we have some very, very good people in communications. Tim and Danica, I think, are excellent. I don't know if any of you have had any experience with them, but we've asked them to develop a plan so that the minute the new CEO is hired, starts working, they have an outreach communication plan, which would obviously include, in my opinion, getting to every village board, having the schedule so that they come to the village board, you get to meet with them. Also, a virtual where the residents get a chance to meet the new CEO. The point is, we think we need our CEO to be out there, and it's going to be difficult, at least for a couple of months, but just get out there and actually meet with people. So that is something some of us are absolutely insisting must occur. Okay, any questions about the CEO? If any of you applied, or no, I'm kidding. No? Okay.
Any,
But-
maybe I could find this with a quick internet search, or maybe I couldn't, but what is the salary for the CEO?
It's a range, I think it's, God, don't hold me to this, 240 something. And we asked them what they would ask for. And they all said different things. And that was quite a range too, as to what they would want.
So
Which-
what's the range? You said 240?
About, I think the range that we were getting from them was 175 to about some of them, this is from memory, maybe 250 or something like that, as to what they felt they would need. And we're also requiring that they live in Columbia.
Oh, that's good.
They have to say, yeah, that's
Yeah.
well,
And that's not including benefits, right?
correct. That is, that was a requirement, and they filled that out, any criminal background problems, and would you live in Columbia? Or some of the, and we didn't have a problem with any of the people because, saying whether they would or would definitely be willing to live in Columbia. That's an expectation of the board.
Bogus.
Okay.
No, Bog
Bog
is
has a question.
I'm sorry, Bog,
Bog, you need to unmute.
what?
He's muted. I'm trying to get him to unmute.
You.
Bog, you're muted.
That'll teach him to be a Nationals fan.
Bog, you might have to press the unmute button on your tablet. Yeah, I can only ask him to unmute. I can't unmute him.
I'm surprised he
He
doesn't.
might, he's using his wife's iPad, so I'm not sure he's familiar
Yeah.
with
Is he trying to say something or?
It
it.
looks like he's trying to press a button on there, but he's not hitting the right one.
Can't help him.
No one from Atlanta.
Yeah.
Thanks, Bob.
Bob, did you see it did you see the button up at the top? Are you trying, he's probably trying to type something in the message.
Is there the chat?
We don't
room?
have
But you
chat.
can't chat, right?
No, we don't have chat.
Oh,
Bob, did you see the button at the top? That says mute or unmute?
Let's move. Well, if he gets to, we can come back to it.
yeah, I'd be happy to stop if you see him unmuted.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There was-
Bog, or Bog, if you want to, while Ginny continues, if you can type it into an email to me, I'll read it.
Is he unmuted now?
No.
No, okay. Okay, to switch to another topic, the outdoor pools. There was a straw vote on that and seems to be some debate as the outcome, but 5 of the board members supported the staff report, yet we had asked, or some of us had asked that Dan Burns take another look at some data that Alex was challenging and some other people were challenging. So I didn't vote for that. I mean, we needed more information, so I wasn't going to do that. There were a couple that abstained, I think, and a couple that voted no. But you can tell that there's a certain amount of support on the board for the current budget regarding outdoor pools. So I am trying to figure out the way I'm sorry, was that Bob talking?
Okay.
Oh, okay. I am trying to figure out the same as you are. Where do we get the money? You know, and we, believe me, it's a pretty tight budget, but they also talk about close the outdoor pools a couple of days a week so that you can then move the staff someplace else. Keep in mind, normally what happened in the past was the pools would be closed one day a week. And the indoor pool swim center was closed sometimes for a whole month or longer. What's happening this year is the pools are open longer hours every day, longer hours with the 15, and the indoor pools, the same thing. They're not going to be closing to get more lanes available, depending on whether you want to go indoors or you want to go outdoors. All the health conditions, all the registration, whatever's going to happen, they're trying to set it up now, and they're not going to know for sure, I think, until May. They'll be opening after Memorial Day. I'm sorry, what?
I think that was background noise.
Okay, I apologize. You can hear some here. I'm trying to talk quickly so that I can mute myself. My husband's watching Louisville, and I don't know if he's going to be in a good mood or a bad mood when it's over. But anyway, basketball team. So here's a possible other way, other way of dealing with this, and I'm not sure if it's a good idea or not. But you know, you can comment on closing 2 or 3 days at the pool as well to use those staff elsewhere. Then it'll cost less than the 508,000. If you believe that figure, it would maybe be about 130 or so, 40 or 200 and something that Dan says to open them. So that's an option, and I'd love to get some feedback on that. The other option is this, and I'll read this quickly. I'm trying to work on whether the wording makes sense or not, and what do you think about the idea the concept basically is the CA board recognizes that outdoor pools are an important amenity for Columbia, while at the same time recognizes that the current pandemic continues to seriously impact CA's ability to provide services. In addition to the financial situation, state and county regulations continue to impact how the pools will operate and the number of people allowed in the pool area at any given time. And CA is facing a potential shortage of lifeguards for the outdoor pools right now, which is pretty serious. We're down 100. Maybe we picked up a few, I hope, in the last week or so. Recognizing the importance of community pools, CA staff has proposed a plan which would allow CA to open 15 outdoor pools 7 days a week for the summer. This will allow the Columbia Neighborhood Swim Team, 14 teams, to operate this summer, and will include a recreational as well as programmed swimming. The 2 indoor pools at the swim center and the indoor pools at the 3 CA fitness centers will also remain open during the summer. So the point is more lanes, more hours, et cetera. Due to COVID restrictions, I mean, the CA board, now this is the part where, see what you think. The CA board and staff will continue to monitor the outdoor pool situation. The CA board authorizes for FY 2022 CA staff to open additional outdoor pools if staff provides information to the CA board that there are sufficient positive developments in our finances, in the COVID situation, in state and county regulations, and an increase in lifeguards. The point being, if the projections for revenue are better than we thought in May and June, rather than wait for the CA staff, which they may or may not do, to come to the board in July, where you have to have a public hearing. In other words, you're going to lose 2 meetings. You're going to not even be able to vote till the end of July or maybe early August. Instead of doing that, it's approved now. Just do it if in fact you have all these conditions, safety, finances, et cetera. You begin to start opening other pools. That's the concept. That's it. So,
Jenny,
Jenny, before we get to that, I just want to relay Bog's question. Bog's question goes back to the selection of the new president. And the question was, how many years will that new contract be for? How long would the new president serve on that first contract?
hasn't been decided yet. We're looking at previous contracts and determining whether we, the board, agrees with those contracts or not. That we're in the process of that.
Thanks, Jenny.
If you want my own opinion, you don't hire anybody for a year or 2 years if you expect them to run an organization. This is my own personal opinion. I can't imagine you hire anybody for less than 3, with conditions on termination, you know, all of that if necessary. But that's just my 2 cents. We don't have a final contract at this point.
Yeah, thank you. Now I'm unmuted. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
All right,
I'm
Rebecca,
muted. You're welcome.
were you going to, I think Rebecca had a comment on the pools and then Bill had a hand up.
yeah, Jenny, don't go muting yet. You said all the pools at the gyms, but if you have a pool membership, you don't use the indoor gym pools. That's for gym membership people, right? So why not close one of the indoor gym pools to get those lifeguards to an outdoor pool? That's going to serve more people.
Sorry.
Constructive idea.
Yeah, and you'd have to, you know, be happy to put that idea forward and get a quick response by tomorrow. You would probably have to think about, okay, if you do that at the therapy pool in the athletic club, there are a lot of people that really need that type of warmer water. If you do it, do we have all the clippers and at the swim center? That's actually producing some revenue. You know, it just depends. You'd lose lanes, you know, that are available now. How many people where would they go? Yeah, it's a nightmare, but I can certainly ask that.
Not
Which-
closing it now, but when the lifeguards are needed in the summer and those pools are open.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, make them outdoor. Yeah.
Well, and some, according to Marty, some of the lifeguards do naturally just switch to outdoors. Others don't want to, but some do. So that's, the shortage is kind of in the system of down 100 right now, which is pretty serious. And some of us are trying to say, hey, you know, if you know anybody that knows anybody, here's how you go online and tell them and see if they'll apply. But I'll talk to Dan about that tomorrow and Marty. But I think that may be the answer, is that then what are you going to do all those people that are using that pool when you close it? Where are you going to put them? You know, it's not guys, this is not a simple situation. Last year, it was terrible that all of them were closed. This year, it would have been ideal that all of them are open. That's just a simple thing. It would have been great. I'm trying to figure out, is there a compromise here in terms of, if we, rather than the vote going to just support the staff's position of only open 15 and it's over with, that's it. And that'll be it for the summer. If there's a change, is what I'm trying to come up with, is then act immediately.
Bill?
Yeah, Ginny, I think that's an excellent move on the part of the board to basically authorize the staff to open up pools if all these other positive things happen. It saves time. It kind of pre-authorizes the staff to take action. I think that's excellent.
I agree.
Jenny, I have a question, and it might be, well, no, I wouldn't say it's out of scope. It might just be something that the CA board hasn't talked about yet. I know one of the underlying concerns about the pools that are going to be closed, because I've heard from some of our residents, is that this is the first step toward permanently closing some pools. You know, once a pool like Talbot Springs is gone for 2 years in a row, it makes it that much easier to say that's the end of it. Do you think there's any chance that the CA board, you know, in whatever this final decision is, could, you know, take some position that says that these are not a step toward permanent closure, that there is some commitment to opening all pools, you know, in a future season post-COVID? I know that doesn't solve the immediate problem, but it might put, you know, it might put at ease some of the people who are not looking at this year, but are looking at the future and going, well, this is just the end of Talbot Springs. It's not coming back if they close it again.
Yeah, I've heard that too, in terms of Talbot Springs. Other areas, what we hear more is, why did you open that pool in my village and not the other one? I want the other one open. Or let's trade pools like Faulkner Ridge. I'll trade for Running Brook. I want Running Brook open. You can leave Faulkner Ridge closed, which the 15 pools included Faulkner Ridge opening. So that's going on. And for the new board members, I don't know if you know this, but Town Center does not have a pool, never has had a pool. Town Center Village, although nobody ever calls it a village, I don't think. Crosby Search has one pool. River Hill has one pool. Owen Brown has two, and they're opening one of them. Oakland Mills has three, and they're recommending opening two of them. Long Reach has four, and they're recommending opening two. Wild Lake, I think has 3 and they're opening 2, but, and they're switching 1. So, and they're going to be using, because one of the other complaints I got is I don't want to be in a pool with kids. And I won't, I won't give you the whole email. But anyway, and that's one of our residents. So what they're looking at is maybe more adult swim in one pool or something. And then what was the other thing? Oh, free second Sunday of the month would be free in all 15 pools. I'm not sure about the indoor. I don't think so, in the outdoor pools. And there was a third thing. Oh, the concern, if somebody is income qualified, we do have, I think it's close to $1 million in the budget. Consistently, CA has subsidized people if they're income qualified. 50% of what it would cost to belong to the pool will be, subsidized by 50%. So that will continue as well. Jonathan, you raised something that was interesting as another option. And maybe actually the chair of Owen Brown, I think was talking about the same thing, is what, and I'm not saying anybody's supporting this, I'm simply saying you're putting another option on the table, I think, is what if we would pass something like this, and as you guys meet on the cash reserves, is you do look at something where that some of that money goes towards the pools. That would be maybe another option. But that certainly is not going to be done by February 25th, because we're talking about a longer process for you guys to get together with the auditors and with Susan, et cetera.
So Jenny, just to repeat my question, because I think my question was actually simpler than the answer you gave. I mean, I thank you for the information.
I'm sorry.
Basically, what I was asking is the CA board considering, or would the CA board consider, committing that these potential temporary closures are absolutely not going to be permanent closures, to put residents at ease? Could the CA board consider going on record with that, so that we don't have residents, saying, oh, Talbot Springs closed 2 years in a row, that's the end of it, they're never opening that again? Ginny, I think you muted yourself.
Sorry. I'm trying to think how we could just amend this and say that. Amend this, what I read to you, and say that. Yeah. I mean, because I have no problem with that. If anything, there's always has to be when something is going to close. Now, Fairway Hills is something that is being reconsidered in terms of how you could look at that facility. And there would be a long public process involved in that, et cetera. So yeah, I would have no problem with rewriting this so that would include that, because I know the fear. I thought, yeah, I hear that. And that is not what's happening here.
Okay, yeah,
But that doesn't satisfy anybody that wants all 23 open today, though. But it is, yeah, we could do that.
No, it doesn't. But it doesn't satisfy the short-term concern, but it does help that longer-term concern, because I've heard it several times, and that's not entirely what's driving everyone to say open to all 23 now. But I think that's what's on the minds of some folks, that their pool is never coming back.
Yeah, I understand. I'm sorry.
Lynn?
Would it be totally out of the question, or not save enough money to make it worthwhile to alternate which pools are open during the summer? In other words, could it be something that a place that has no pools that are going to be open, or only one? Could they be switched out? Not, I'm giving up Stevens Forest for Talbot Springs, but could it be that one day a week, one pool, Stevens Forest would be closed, but Talbot Springs would be open? Could it switch that way rather than getting rid of one altogether for the summer? Or could it be half the summer and then other pools would be open for the pools that aren't going to be open, that aren't among the 15, would be open for another portion of the summer? Just
Somebody asked that Oh, somebody asked that at the CA meeting, and
did
whoever it
they?
was said half of the cost goes to opening the pool and half the cost goes to staffing. So that would save some, but
Yeah.
it would still cost.
No
half.
cost, but it would be, you know, it kind of spread the pain a little bit and among the different villages.
You can do anything you want if you can find the money.
Yeah.
Show me the money. And the other thing is, look at the schedules. Because you have certain things planned that, depending on if you move them, you know, would you then upset your other people that, wait a minute, this is my pool. What are you doing? You're closing my pool. You've opened it 7 days a week, longer hours. Now you're going to close my pool. Anything can be done, but it's not, it's also got to look at what's programmed for a pool, et cetera.
I just think it might be a little more palatable for people rather than saying, too bad, you're not going to get a pool at all, that you get it for part of the time. You know, it makes it seem a little fairer.
No, I agree. It's just, there's a cost involved.
Sure, I understand.
And what I'm trying to say is if we look at our revenue and it does go up, then just open it.
Yeah.
Ginny, my biggest concern really is just that pools are already going to be cut in numbers of how many people can use them. And if people can't sign up to use the pool, they're going to be dropping memberships, which is just going, especially working families. And this is something I speak from a very privileged spot, in that I'm home with my kids all day and we can go over to our open Thunder Hill pool in the middle of the week at 10 a.m. and we will get our pool time in. But those people who are working and who can only go to the pool on weekends are not going to be able to go. They're going to be able to go once or twice this summer. And that doesn't seem like they can justify that cost. And so that's my biggest concern about cutting the number of pools, is you're now going to be cutting the number of people that even want to have a membership.
I don't know how to answer that, Rebecca.
I know, I'm just.
You may be right. I said to somebody, you know, because you had said to me, what about All View Pool or Hammond Village or Forest Ridge on 29? They'll join that. This guy's response was, no way. You have to wait for somebody to die to join Athelton or All Views Club. I said, wait a minute, I just thought you pay, you know. Oh no, you've got to pay, and you know, a deposit or down whatever, and then the monthly fee and everything. He said, I'm not going there. So I don't know how much it is, but he seemed to think it was more expensive than what he'd be paying at Stevens Forest.
Oh, it's significantly more, so much more.
Yeah, so I guess your point is, this is, they won't have anything if, and I don't know the answer to that. I think we're going to find out, and I hope that doesn't happen, since we're open more days and more hours. Take a look at the schedule, guys, and see, you know, if it'll work. But at the same time, I don't know what the restrictions will be in June. I don't know, and none of us know. And July, it may be a lot better than we're anticipating, which would be wonderful, and we can get more capacity. I just don't know what to say. I mean, if you can find the money, you've been struggling with how to find the money. I think you've spent a lot of time on the budget trying to find it. So I admire you for that. And very upset with CA, and we'll be upset with the board about the Haven. We've gotten lots of letters saying, why don't you do anything about that? Why don't you save that? It really means a lot to me. You know, that's, and they're very sincere about it. You know, some are saying I'll pay more. So, and that has a pool too. Small pool, I've been in it, but it has a pool. So the other thing is, Lynn and I were talking about this quite a bit this morning. I'm not overly happy with the Haven situation in that, as I said to Lynn, I am not happy with Howard Hughes did not excuse the rent when we were closed. And they are not willing to reduce the rent now so that we'd have a chance to recover. The rent is extremely expensive, 70, I think it's 70, I have to find the figure, 72,000 plus 19 towards Howard Hughes Company or whatever it is that manages the whole thing. You know, if they could give us a shot at even reducing it, while you try and bring in maybe more partners, you try and get part of that place rented as, you know, will the spas come back? I think even if CA does vote to close it, they have to aggressively continue to try and find, working with the county and maybe the state economic development, the county economic development, and see if there's some way, there's a way of getting partnerships. It's a very good, it's an area that, you know, you have gyms all over the place. But this is something different, and it's got if you try and be a visionary about it, what the potential is, a lot of wasted space. So there's a lot of downsides of that haven, that why they ever opened it the way they did, with a lot of square footage that's just open. You feel like you're getting lost when you walk into that building, which is ridiculous. But there's also a lot of potential, a tremendous amount of potential. And I hate to see CA, and I always opposed the Haven in the past, but then I also opposed the Columbia Gym a long time ago, and that's really vital to that area. And we would have had competition there. We're the competition in Clarksville. But it's just got such potential if we can make it a lot more economically feasible. And I think we're going to need a lot of help. And I just don't want to see staff say, well, okay, that's it. It's over. No. And then how do we sell the furniture or something, which is going to be bloody difficult with what we've got in there.
Dismantle the Himalayan salt room. That's going to be a challenge. I have
you don't want to bring your salt shakers?
Yeah,
No.
right.
Sorry.
Just a thought about that. Phil and I were talking as we were driving by Whole Foods today, and that space that is, and you and I have talked about this, Jenny, and it is confusing to me when I went through all of the, you know, the comments made about it from the CA staff and from the board, that one of the things was that there couldn't even be, because there's a huge cost in keeping up that lease for the next several years, and you know, all of that sort of stuff. Not to mention, I don't know what would be involved in getting rid of saunas, plunge pools, you know, what are you going to do with all that stuff? You can't, you know, you're going to just mothball the whole thing. And it perplexes me as to what the financial person was saying, that you couldn't possibly be even considering subletting any of the space until you break the lease. And that doesn't make sense to me. And in terms of the space, there's this beautiful, totally empty space that looks out over the lake. And if you sublet it, why not? Everybody has said, especially here in Oakland Mills, you know, Kay being one of the main people saying, I want a cafe, I want a cafe. And I'm thinking, why not a wine bar? That's something with Clyde's closing. And in the summer, you know, how many people really relied on being able to sit outside at Clyde's or go up on that little pavilion thing out over the water and you listen to music and all the rest of it. And, you know, that's all gone now. I mean, you know, and it's great that was said about, well, you know, that the Haven isn't the only CA thing, that they've got the Kennedy Garden that people can walk around in, and they've got the path. That's a very different thing. It's a passive experience. It's not, you're walking, so that part of it is active, but it's not the same thing at all. And it's certainly not money making. It's not income generating. So I think, you know, my hope is that with all of this, that CA that CA board doesn't just close the door on options for so many things that that just out of hand, this isn't working, let's get rid of it. And an easy fix, here's how we save some money. And you know, I think that there is the kind of the short-sightedness with the pools and with other things that you close them down, and what are you eliminating as future possibilities? So I just like your idea, especially with the outdoor pools. Let's not just say these are going to be closed. Let's say these are going to be closed going into the summer. And if things loosen up, I mean, the COVID rates, the rates of people coming down with COVID are plummeting. I mean, you know, we could be finding ourselves out of this whole situation a lot earlier than we think. On the other hand, it could be a lot longer than we think. So it's so much up in the air now. I think that rash decisions and decisions that can't be walked back are a mistake.
Thanks, Lynn.
Well, Lynn said something that I've got to double check on, because I do not understand why you can't sublet. So I'll double check that. Yeah, I mean, that's not even logical when you're talking about. Yeah, no, I mean, you got that spa area that we had.
We had to keep paying your lease, and you can't sublet, you know.
No, we had somebody that actually, a company that was purchased by Marriott that was ready to move into the spa area. So that would have been national prominence, et cetera. And I was all excited about that. And then, of course, COVID hit, and they just said, like, I'm not going to sign that contract for a long-term contract. Timing was just lousy, but I don't understand that. And thank you. And I will get an answer. But that's what I'm talking about in terms of the process. You either just let it go, and I don't know what you do with the salt myself, but anyway, you let it go, or you say, all right, let's aggressively look at and try and get Calvin Ball involved, the governor's economic council, and see if Howard Hughes. I wish everybody would write to Howard Hughes and ask them to forgive the rent, or half the rent even. I mean, that rent is a killer.
Well, isn't it pretty soon now that they're breaking ground on a brand new hotel at the Crescent property? So, you know, that'd be a nice amenity for the second hotel.
It's not only that, it's the Sheridan, I'm trying to think whether it's going to be called the Marriott or what, but Costello and what I understand Brad Canfield are working together, and you see some of the changes to that hotel. And so that's going to be another big one. Yeah, I don't disagree. A gym, no, a gym down there, you've got to be out of your mind.
We've got too many already.
Every new building has a gym.
Yeah.
So you do not compete with a gym, or you need your head examined.
Right.
But is there something different? So I feel bad about it. But anyway, I'm sorry. I've talked enough on it, and I apologize.
Thank you, Ginny. I'm gonna move us along because we're an hour behind and we still have 3 agenda items to go. So I'm gonna send it over to Sandy for the financial and operations update.
I'll have the third quarter financials at the next meeting. So I'll send them out in advance. And on Monday night, there's a candidate information session that I will have on Zoom. The link is with all of the candidate information. It's on that calendar, and I'm going to send out an email tomorrow, to remind those interested. But we've gotten the e-nominations in. That seems to work fine. So I think that's good. And so I want to thank Amy for getting everything up on the web. It was an enormous task for us, but it's nice that it's there, and we tweaked it so everything is accessible, and there's more information than probably any other village puts out there. I did attend that meeting, Ginny, on Thursday as I was at the RAC meeting. Well, she's gone. But anyway, I had an earphone in my ear. Lynn can attest to this, listening to the meeting as I was helping run the RAC meeting. So I was double you
We're
know,
multitasking.
splitting my brain. And at one point I had to apologize to the RAC because it's really hard to be at 2 meetings at once with one in your ear, but I did it. And I also listened to the CA candidate information session that they had on Saturday. So I didn't I listened to it afterwards, but I think there were a number of people there and it was a very nicely run and well-attended meeting. So everything else is fine at work. Brigida's come up with a package for parties of 50 or less because people are looking to do that now. So we will be talking and meeting about our new wedding packages because people now are realizing that the big 200 parties are not what's happening. So we'll roll that out. And we're gonna also talk about some kind of plant sale, maybe in late May where we can have it outdoors. And so we're gonna talk about that. And I think that's it.
Any questions for Sandy? All right, then we'll move on to committee reports. Lynn, did you have anything architecture?
Just that we had a RAC meeting, as Sandy said, on Thursday. We had 9 applications and all 9 were approved as submitted. And with a couple of, kind of details added. We're getting really great applications. The meetings are going really well. They're actually fun to be part of. And my favorite application, it was from a resident who's putting in an in-ground pool, a swim-up bar, and an outdoor kitchen. So I think, if we don't have our pools open, maybe we ask him if we can all go over there.
And what's that address again?
It's an interesting house. It will become more interesting.
Yeah. Now, we didn't bribe him that we would approve of this. We all got invitations.
Jonathan's back.
That's it.
All right,
Oh,
thanks, Lynn.
Jonathan's
Yeah,
got his
see,
hat.
I've got my senator's hat, Bog. I will not do nationals, but I'll do senators. All right, I'm going to take us to the bulletin board, so I'll start over here with Ginny. Oh, she's muted.
You're mute.
Yeah, sorry. Bob, just thank you so much for everything. And I know we're going to see you around.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
Maybe at the swim-up bar.
Yeah.
Can we charge and sell CA memberships for it? No, I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, Lynn, go ahead.
No, nothing more.
Okay, Rena?
I just want to thank Bob for all his work and dedication to his position on the board. Good
Yes.
Good meeting. I've learned a lot. Mhm.
Yes.
Mhm.
Rebecca?
Nothing, except
Okay.
thank you, Bog. I
Oh,
hope that you don't disappear.
I hope not. Thank you very much.
Rashida?
Nothing to add, but Bog, I didn't get to work with you, but I heard all the good things about you. So good luck on your next endeavor.
That's
whatever
beautiful.
that may
Thank
be.
you very much. Thank you.
No problem.
I'll
I
miss,
miss everyone
Oh,
too. I love
sorry.
you a lot.
I'll miss all of you guys, but I'll be around.
Mhm.
Bill?
Yep.
Okay. Amy, anything from the front office?
Just a big thank you to Bob for serving with us. It's been wonderful. You're a very gracious person and it's been great to know you. And
Thank
to
you. Thank
continue
you.
to.
Thank you, Amy.
Yeah.
I'll miss you.
Right, Sandy?
Nothing more. And Rashida and Rena, if you want to ever talk to me about anything, I'm always at my computer at my kitchen table. So just let me know and I can go over all the stuff that you might be like, what are you talking about?
Okay, thank you. And thank you for everyone that's reached out. Thank you.
Yes, most appreciated. Thanks.
Okay. I'll go next because I want to let Bob take us home. So I just have one thing in addition to thanking Bob again, and that is to remind everyone that there's going to be a public hearing on the Racial Equity Task Force. And it is next Thursday, March 4th from 6 to 8. So, task force members, and full disclosure, I'm one, as are several other Oakland Mills residents, are encouraging as many people to come and hear the meeting. It's an open meeting, as well as sign up to speak if you have feelings about the task force and the work that it's conducting. So again, that's on Thursday, March 4th from 6 to 8. And Bog, I'll let you go last on the bulletin board.
Oh, nothing much, but I have a lot of thanks for everybody. Thank you very much. It's not goodbye. It's not a goodbye. I'll be around and I'll drop by.
Good. Thank you, Bog.
My pleasure.
Okay, with that, we are adjourned. Thank you very much, and thank you, Bog, for your service.
Great. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone.
Thank you. Take care, everyone. Be safe.